Hello, hello. Today we have Morphe's Heatseeker. This is a palette that I was waiting for forever to go on sale, and it just did not go on sale. Eventually, I found this palette at the TJ Maxx before the freaking palette went on sale. So back here, we can see that I spent $13 at TJ Maxx for this palette. That was the cheapest I had seen it up until that point. I think that for this Black Friday, it finally kind of went on sale. I was expecting this palette to go on sale for 50% off way sooner, and even then the Morphe website hasn't really had 50% off days. They've had like 30 or 40% off, which isn't really worth it to me. I was waiting for 50% off because I have so many palettes at this point, but there was something about this palette that really caught my eye. I think it's because there is a beautiful yellow in this, and also I tend to have a preference towards warm oranges. I think that's what really caught my eye on this one. I love the packaging. I'm from California. This packaging is really giving California. It's so beautiful. And this is the actual palette. So it's the same image on the box and on the actual palette. This is metal. It's tin. I believe that's very much similar to, I think it's Too Faced. They also have, I believe, metal kind of pan palettes. I really like this. I like the way that this was packaged and the imagery. I think it's really pretty. I like that it's in this tin. It makes it feel a little nicer. So if we open it up, we can see that there is no mirror here. It's just the rest of the tin. There's a little slip in here with all the names and shades that we're going to find in here. So if we remove that little slip, you could put it up there and still read the names. But this is the palette. I think she's so pretty. This palette really caught my eye, and I was really hoping for the best. Now I tried this palette for a week, and unfortunately it did not work for me. This is a palette I'm gonna have to pass on to my mom. I think this is a palette that would work a lot better for her. So of course, overall, I would say a good half of the palette is too light for my skin tone. My skin needs a couple more darker shades. These two shades in here are the darkest mattes that are in here, and they're still not dark enough for me. There's also appears to be kind of some repetitive shades in here. Like these two aren't that far off from each other. Same with these two up here. Those also seem very similar. This is more like a neon coral. This is more of a bright orange, but I'm not sure if the camera can really pick that up. It's pretty similar. There's a pinky transition shade and then like a corally transition shade, but on the eye, I mean, they're pretty much the same. Overall, the shimmers in here tended to be a bit more dry. They didn't really have the punch that I like my shimmers to have. So for that reason, I'm going to pass it off. But I don't think overall it's necessarily a bad palette. I just don't think this is the palette for me. I think for my mom, who I think this is a good start for palette for her. I don't think she has a lot of oranges. I don't think she has warm colors. I think she's afraid. Like, these colors to her are intense, which is funny because these colors to me seem so light. I like bright and dark and intense, and she's not about that at all. So I think she'd really like that. These shimmers, they shimmer. They just don't shimmer as intensely as I would like them to. And again, they are a little bit more on the drier side, but overall, they're not awful. The best look I created in this palette was this quad right here. I bet I did the best look with that. It was really pretty. I was expecting shimmers like these over here to be incredibly sparkly. I expected them to be kind of like the Jeffree Star eyeglosses. I was definitely expecting a bit more. And unfortunately, my dreams are a little shattered because I love the packaging. I really do love Morphe formula, but I don't think this formula and this palette specifically is a palette that I would pick up all the time. So it's one that I'm going to have to pass on. But it's going to go to a good home with my mama. I really hope she enjoys playing with the oranges and the yellows. And there's some safer colors over here. You know, she gets a little worried. But I think she'll really like this top row. She really likes pinks. So I think it's a good delve into, I mean, it's called Heatseeker. So I think it's supposed to be a summer palette. But when I look at this palette, I kind of get this transition of, I guess, summer into fall, right? Like, you got your light pinks over here, and it's kind of turning into like the fall of the leaves of the yellows, the reds, the oranges. And so let me swatch my favorite shades in here, the ones that I think made the best impact and I was a bit more surprised about. So for mattes, from what I remember, let's look at this sheet right here. It would be this shade over here called Night Swim. This is a matte. And then the shade Sun Club was a lot more pigmented than I remember. I've also swatched the shade Too Hot just so you can see a darker shade. But these are the mattes. I was surprised I liked this brown shade called Night Swim. It kind of reminds me of one of the colors we see in the Jeffree Star palette, the Star palette. I don't know what it is about this color that looks so good on me, I think. And then of course this yellow. I love yellow. You know, I have a series on my channel called Quest for Yellow. This yellow is approved. I think this is a really good yellow, which also breaks my heart too. I have to pass it along because I think this is a good yellow. Look how beautifully bright that yellow is. And then of course we have this one over here, which would be Too Hot. This is Too Hot. I want to build this up a little more. I think these mattes were very gorgeous. I think they worked quite well. Alright, now for shimmers, I'm going to swatch, of course, this yellow that I loved. It's called Daybed. I'm going to swatch that one, and then I think I'm going to swatch Palm Canyon. This one was the driest of all the shimmers, so you can see what I think is the worst shimmer in here. This one was really dry. I didn't really get a lot of color out of it. And then I'll swatch, how about Coral Canopy? Coral Canopy was kind of like a medium. It was alright, so I think we could do, is it worst, okay, and best of the shimmer shades in here. I think it could show you a good range of what to expect from this palette. So we're going to go into Palm Canyon, which is a lot drier. We're going to, let's see, Daybed, which was my favorite shimmer in here. And then we'll go into Coral Canopy, which is like this orangey coral color, but with a gold shimmer in it. Those are our three shimmers we're going to swatch right now. So this one I think was the worst. I think it applied a lot better with my finger and on my hand than on my eyes. But this was not my favorite. It didn't show up very well on my skin. And with a brush I wasn't really able to apply it. So here it looks a lot better. I think that was a really good swatch. This is my favorite. I love yellow. I think the yellows in here are approved for me. It's a nice shiny yellow. And then we have Coral, which I think is quite the standard kind of Morphe color. I really like. I think this is a shade my mom's gonna really like because it's not super intense, but it's got sparkle in it. It's got shimmer in it. It's orange, but it's also kind of gold. It's a nice warm tone color. Overall, I'm passing this palette along, but I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that, you know, these shades just don't maybe go best with my skin tone. I also like more punchy colors, but I think they're pretty standard. The shimmers are a bit drier than I prefer, but I don't think that this is necessarily a palette you would trash. Same as I did the way I found this one at TJ Maxx. If this is a palette that interests you to try, then, you know, I definitely recommend it to try. But this is a palette I'm going to pass on, give it to my mama. She's going to love this beautiful California Sunset palette. You'll have a great day.